So today we are talking about fringe families. And what does that mean? Because Christmas is coming, guys. Oh, Dawn says, hi. You are loved by Dawn. We love you, Dawn. And Emily, it's good to see you too. Right. And Sarah's there. Oh, I'm just gonna start naming people. I remember as a child there was this television program that I was on when I was 5, and at the end, uh, she would she would hold her mirror up, and she would just name children that sent their names in. And I remember thinking, like, oh, she's gonna name me. But I went to Scotland, you guys. I'm gonna need to find my packet, which means I'm now gonna make you look at my lap. Oh, wait, okay, there we go. Okay, so I went to Scotland, which was amazing, and it was holiday. And a shout out to all of you people who live in Scotland because it's beautiful. And as I prayed around the hills and stuff, God is doing something in your nation. It's fantastic. But as I was there, I was like, oh gosh, I really want some sweeties. And I found the most Scottish sweeties that I could possibly find. Everyone's going to ask, yes, I had tablet, but the most Scottish sweeties possible are iron brew pastels. And you know what? They're really good. And we all really like them. So I think we're missing something in the South. My team would appreciate you sending them some. Right. So Christmas is happening, and we are all, I'm sure, running many different events that reach out to many different people. Sometimes we're super in the community. Sometimes it's with the TOTS groups or the school, or so many different environments that we engage families that we don't just normally have, but that are people that we sometimes only see infrequently, or people that we've been doing some outreach with and are beginning to come in. And so we begin to think, what are we going to do with them? How can we help them? And we're often focused on sharing God's word and sharing God's love with them. But from a parenting for faith perspective, it creates a very interesting opportunity, because having access to parents who are on varying journeys of their faith is a really useful thing for us to invest in, because it's not just the sold out, fantastic, I come to church 13 times a week Christians that we are supposed to invest in. It is much, much more. How you define fringe families is sort of completely up to you. Fringe families, for me, don't have anything to do with like whether they are on their faith journey. It's not just fringe families or the non-Christians. Fringe families may be the people who struggle or don't have a pattern of coming to church, or just on the fringe of our community, the people who haven't really would say that they belong to us and we belong to them, the ones that we are still building relationships with. And they may have varying levels of faith, some of which may be parents who actually don't have a faith. And so how do we do that? If parents don't have a faith, or if we don't have regular contact with them, is parenting for faith relevant, or even something that we should/could be doing? And I want to talk about how we can make the most of our Christmases in that perspective. So for me, I went on a big journey with this, because at the beginning I was like, well, actually, if you don't have a faith, you can't pass it on and you can't give it to your kids. So then no, we can't really do anything with parenting for faith. And I ignored it for a very long time. And God began to stir my heart about it, because the theological journey I guess I'd been on was parents, a child is in the center, and then his parents are wrapped around them, and then the church, and so on and so forth. And did I really believe that parents were anointed and called by God to be spiritual parents? Or did I only believe Christian parents who are the best at it are called to spiritually invest in their kids? And I realized that I had this prejudice or arrogance, I guess, about saying, well, it's only fantastic Christian families who can do this well. And for everybody else, the church needs to do it. And God really began to talk to me about the fact that if he's calling parents to do it, he's calling all parents to do it. And my heart, therefore, needed to be in serving all parents in this. And therefore, I began to look at the fringe families, and the families who I would say the parents didn't have faith or had a very nominal faith, and parents that I didn't see very often, and instead turned my heart to saying, how can I help you experience experience the joy of helping your kid meet and know God? And how can I give you the skills to do it to the level that you have faith? You can talk about it with your kid. And I believe that to the level that you have faith, you talking about with your kid is powerful, because God has anointed you for this. And it took a big heart change for me to get there. But when I did, it began to inform everything I did with Fringe families, from my tots group to the parents of the kids that I experienced in my kids groups. And so how do we do this well? How do we actually disciple parents who are at the beginning of faith, or we don't see very often, in being powerful spiritual influencers in the life of their kids? So we're going to do a couple of tools of that. And as we go along, if you have specific questions about your events, or if you have specific questions of things you encountered, or if you have great stories that you want to share, type them in, let us know. And I have 2 people who will very happily read them out loud and come talk to us about that, because this is about us sharing lunch while you're eating. They ate all the sweeties. So for me, we encounter families who are on the fringe in 2 different areas. We have the gathered events, and you have the sort of parents of kids and teenagers that we talk to but barely see the parents. And so first, let's talk about the gathered parents, the people who you get through your doors for your light party, for your Christmas events, for your 13 crib services that you run, for the parents who show up at the school assemblies, those people that you finally get them all in the same room. Now, what do you do with them? And I would suggest that this is a great, brilliant opportunity to take a whole family unit and move them forward in faith together, but with a parenting for faith angle. Often we just see it as a let's share God with everybody, and hopefully that sticks. And I think we can share God with everybody and equip a parent to take that bit home with them. So there's 3 things with gathered events. I don't have PowerPoints for us. Boo! Boo! I got booed by my own team. Right, so fine. 3 things that I will make them, I don't know, I'll dance them out. So the first thing that for a gathered event that I suggest you do to help those families, grow in a skill and a vision for it is, number 1, always make sure in whatever event you're doing that puts them all together, to give them a clear glimpse. A glimpse. This is going to be my sign language. A glimpse. Give them a glimpse of God in active life. Because sometimes we just talk about him, and we know through Parenting for Faith, we've been talking about what it means to create a window into our life. It's something that we are trying to encourage parents to do all the time, because we know it's powerful for other people to see what a normal, everyday, ordinary life with God looks like. And we now get to create windows for all of those families who may not be in community with people who are doing that and creating windows for them. So in whatever event you do, create an opportunity to create windows into people who are walking with God. So whether it's at a Christmas service, having somebody up front who says, if your topic is God is with us, bring somebody up who has walked through something really difficult that year, and give them a moment, whether it's an interview, whether it's a recording of you doing it, give them a moment to say, this was my life and it was a mess. And you know what? It's still a mess, but in my mess, this is who God is to me. And it gives them a glimpse, a glimpse into the life of someone who is walking their ordinary with God, because that is super important for them. So we can be someone who creates a window for them. So one, give them a glimpse of something, whether it's testimonies, videos, however, facilitate a glimpse into somebody else's life. The second thing, you were waving something at me.
She was making slides.
Oh, she's making PowerPoints. Oh,
sorry.
The team loves you. So the second thing is invite people into encounter. We know that if we want people to not just be God smart, but we want them to be God connected, then they at some point have to meet with God. And if we're giving them a glimpse into somebody else's life, saying this is what it looks like for them, then they then have an opportunity to be invited into trying it for themselves. And rather than saying, you can do this at home, feel free to do this at home, what we're saying is, just now, in this moment, we are going to take an opportunity to do exactly what we're talking about. So If you're talking about God being with us, to say, God is here. He is in this room. He came so that he can be with us. And it looks different in lots of different churches and lots of people's lives. But for right now, just for this moment, you don't have to be anybody else but yourself. We're just going to take the next song or the next 20 seconds or however you want to do it and just say, God is here, and you can tell him anything you want. And to be quiet from the front, or if you want to do a letting it, whatever it is, to enable them on their own to meet with God, whether it's by playing music or leading them into that, so that they, without anybody else's help, can meet with him on their own, proves to them in that moment that they don't need anything else but a willingness to meet with God in that moment. If your thing is about Jesus being the light, everyone can light a candle and have a moment to look and ponder. Whatever it is, give them a moment of individual encounter with God, because then they grow in their confidence that they can. So the first thing, have a glimpse. The second thing is to invite them in. These are lame actions. I feel like I need to do much better than that. The third thing is to give them a next step to take that home with them. Often they will, French families come to church for something specific. If they're coming to a gathered event, they're assuming that we're going to do churchy things in the church. What I tend to do is say this exact thing that we just did is an exact thing you can do at home with nobody else that you need. This thing that you just did, you can use anywhere. So I only ever give them a tool and an encounter that I know they can replicate on their own at their home. And so when I say, so the next time you are feeling stressed, the next time you're feeling overwhelmed by money, the next time you're doing this, just take a moment and do exactly what we've just done. And that gives parents not only the framing, the explaining what it is and why, it gives them the confidence to say, I can do this. And I did it side by side with my kid. So I know my kid can do it. So I don't have to explain it to my kid. And we have seen such fruit from parents coming together in a gathered event and being given these things, a glimpse into somebody else's life, an invitation to try it, and a next step. Over and over again, we hear stories of parents. There was one father-child event, and we taught them how to bless their kids. We were saying, we believe that parents can bless children, which just means praying to God all your heart's desires for what you want him to give. And even if you don't have a faith right now, there's something powerful about speaking your good hopes and desires over your children. But we believe that God is powerful and listens to the words of parents over their children. So we taught them to just put their hand on their kid and say, this is what I want God to give you. And years later, people will come up to me and say, I'm still on my journey with God. I'm still not 100% convinced he exists. But you know what? Every night for the past 5 years, 8 years, I do that thing you taught us over my kid because it's what I can do, and I think it helps. It gives them something they can implement immediately, and it's very powerful. Yes, so that's the gathered stuff. Hold on. My team just did a back to front PowerPoint, except somehow it switched on Facebook, so now this is still back to front. Amazing. But this is the love of my team for you. That is it. But if I put it backwards and hold it up to the light, it doesn't do it. Oh, sweetie. Oh, boo. We are failing on so many levels. It's because we're not in my house. If we had my real palm tree behind us, we would be getting that. Right. How are we doing? We okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Great. So what's next? Right. So that's the gathered stuff. So use the gathered stuff. Think, what skill am I giving parents, and how am I enabling them to take it home so that they can grow in confidence in this? The other thing that's really powerful that we found, which kind of surprises me, is the multi-generational community. Because often we're like, gathered events, get them in, give them stuff, and then send them home. And actually, one of the things that brings families back and enables them and empowers them to do faith at home stuff is being around other people who do. And therefore, really pushing into developing good relationships with people. Not just, oh, it's nice to meet you, shake hands, but a chance and an opportunity to sit and have deep conversations and good conversations. Whether it's during the peace, if you're an Anglican church, and just saying, turn to somebody and greet them, rather than say that, say, turn to somebody else, shake their hand, and also ask them, what was the most significant moment of your last 3 months? And just give them a chance to build that connection. Whether you run a tots group and you do a sort of gathered Christmas party and everyone's all together, I would suggest you begin to think, how are we building this multi-generational community? I know many people of an older generation who don't feel like they have the physical capacity to come and help with all the toys and the moving things and that, but they would love to come and sit and talk to people and invest in them and make them feel loved. And there's this thing in the back of us is if we really want to help fringe families begin to talk about faith with their kids, we need to put them in a community that talks about faith in an ordinary everyday life. And when we do that multi-generationally, it's really powerful. So even if you do nothing else, but begin to think, how can we truly authentically wrap people around them? You will begin to see it come out. There was one family we worked with that we added grandparent type figures to our tots group. And they didn't do anything, they didn't do any lifting besides just coming and just truly loving the people there. And through that, I began to see people praying with their kids at home. And they began to, they didn't transfer to morning church, but they began to like ask if they could take home the Bibles and things. And eventually I rooted it out. And it was because through just regular conversations with some of these older people who were saying, oh, I remember this age. I used to love reading this Bible to my kid. Oh, it's right here. And they would pull it out and they would just do life together. And through that, they began to explore this and they began to grow their kids' faith and their faith as well. So use that multi-generational community. And the second thing, besides doing the gathered stuff, the big question that comes up is, well, great, if you can get them in the building, fantastic. But a lot of us run kids clubs and youth groups where you never see the parents, ever see the parents. And so therefore, what do we do with that? Now, I know Joe Squires is working on a program within Birmingham Diocese about how do we equip and train children to sort of take their faith home and share that with their parents. And that's interesting. And I'm looking very much forward to what comes out of that. And as she develops it, we'll get her in to talk about that on these things because she's wise and smart and it'll be great. But there's that we're in. But for me, there's still a lot we can do with parents directly. One is communication, like over communication. I know we feel like we send home the list, or we send home the letters, and just getting parents to like register their child sometimes feels like an enormous task. But there's a difference, what I found in my experience. When my heart was, I'm here primarily for the children and young people, then I tried with the parents twice and fantastic. And then if the parents were picking it up, fine. But when I began to be transformed in my heart about really loving parents and wanting to see these kids discipled in the everyday and have parents who were open to this, then I began to really radically change how I was engaging parents. And not because I wanted to manipulate them, but because I wanted to love them and walk alongside of them in this whole journey of life and faith. And so one of the things is, in my experience of working with parents, is the big fear they have with us is that we're going to steal their child or turn them into something weird. Not like we're going to run away with them, but like we're going to take them away and form a wedge between them and their kids. That religion or faith is going to become this weird thing that we do to their kids. And so one of the main things we can do is communicate out, not just what we're doing, which is important, but also how we're doing it. And so whether it's making sure you pray at the beginning of the session, so as the parents are dropping their kids off, they can see how you pray. Because often we put our spiritual bit in the middle, which means parents never see it. So when we say, welcome everybody, oh, we're so glad, we just want to open up by talking to God. Hey, parents, it's so great to see you, for your kids group. And to say, oh, God, we're so happy that everyone's here, and I thank you that you love each one. Even if you do that at the beginning, it shows them what type of connection with God that you're modeling. And it really helps them begin to become familiar with it, become comfortable with it. And so whether it's you show them there or whether it's you throw a massive party at the end, we all do those barbecues at the end of a holiday club, and you're trying to gather people in to run a session almost, that's exactly the same. That's familiar to the kids. So they can go, okay, I am marginally comfortable with this, or I am not comfortable with this at all, and we can talk to them about it. But making sure that we are the same behind closed doors and in front of them is really important to developing that trust. Another thing that we need to communicate to parents is that we are for them. Do you remember when we talk about IKEA versus the dentist? And being the dentist is this feeling of whenever you go to the dentist, you're getting judged. Shout out to all the dentists who I know aren't like that. That's not your heart, but it's our fear. And so when parents, particularly on the fringe, feel like church is the dentist who's going, how are you failing your child today? For us to be able to communicate to parents really positive things about kids, even if they're the most difficult behaved children, they are still dearly loved children that we can talk to parents about. And we can say, hey, I just want to catch you as you're running off. I just want to say that your kid's fantastic and we really love him. And you're doing something, you must be doing something really right as a parent to produce a kid who's that kind. I just want to say, I'm in awe of you. And letting them go. And what we're communicating to them is that we are in their corner. We are for them as parents. We are speaking well of them behind their back. And we are there to serve them, not to judge them. And that communication is really powerful. I used to do that with parents of my youth, the ones that you never saw, ever saw. But they did have to fill out a form that said, I'm willing to, be contacted in emergency, and I'm willing to be contacted with information about my child, and blah, blah. So I was covered on my ticky things. It was before GDPR, so there's a whole thing, but I don't want to say that word anymore, but, think about it. But it also meant that regularly I would just text these parents that I never met, just saying, we just love having him at this club. And I just wanted to let you know, he's a real powerhouse of courage and strength. And we just think, we really appreciate your family and letting us spend a small amount of time with your kid. When I do that, then those parents would come up and be like, that was a really nice text. And I began to develop a relationship with them, not to manipulate them, because I genuinely appreciate them and their child. And that communication that says, we're for you, we're not trying to turn your kid weird, we're just giving them access to what we feel is the most central love and confidence that they can have. And we want you to feel the same. It's just a really helpful circle. And then the other thing is invest in relationships with them. When you get that connection, often we then go for, and this is what's happening in the club, but I firmly believe that if you've committed to loving a kid and loving a young person, then you've kind of committed to loving their whole family. And so, yeah, that means the pastoral care of those parents and investing in them. I worked for a church, and when I came, they already had a team who was functioning. I could take no credit for this. And they had a team who was super invested in the local school. And they would hang out at the school gates just to develop relationship with parents. And they would be the team for the friends of the parent association, all of those events. They would come and serve at those events. And eventually they began to at the school gates, people would ask them to babysit. They would babysit and they'd get themselves invited to dinner. I don't know how they did that. And they were just really invested in those relationships. And so through that, parents began to talk to them about deep stuff, and they began to come to church, and we began to really see a significant portion of our Sunday mornings coming out of these relationships of who I would name as fringe families, but through relationship began to come in and experience their level of faith and be skilled up in how to do that. And so there's something about, even if you just have the kid and the teenager, when we say, I'm going to pray for you, I'm going to love you, I'm going to seek you out, I'm going to tell you how great it is, and this is how we do it, tell me how you're feeling about it. It creates this beautiful communication, and that begins to skill them up. We've seen so many times where through that relationship, then they ask, actually, I think my kid has ghosts in their room. And I've been brought into many a home where they thought ghosts were in the room, and I would pray with the family and I do things because I became a pastoral person who loved them, who knew something of God, and could help them see how powerful they are in the life of their child. That, for me, is the beginning of Fringe Families. Do you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, ponderings, issues, things that you're doing that we can talk through and make suggestions on? Yes? No? She does have PowerPoint. Oh, yeah. We'll survey that while you're thinking. There you go. So give them a glimpse. This is in the gathered section. Give them a glimpse. Create windows, tell stories. Invite them to encounter God. Give them a next step they can do at home and build multi-generational community. Who can we wrap around our families? And then with the families that we just feel like we only have kids and with parents who are not interested, we love them anyways. And communicate to them not just what we're doing, but how we're doing it. Let them know that we're for them, smiley face. And to serve and appreciate them, not to judge them, and to invest in relationships with them, not just the kids. Right, so here's some questions that we got earlier while we were sitting around talking. So one is, well, we've fielded this before. We've tried and tried, but this kid's parents won't engage. How can we best disciple the kid? There are times where parents are just not connected to this at all. And that's okay. There are sometimes when there are places and families where we need to add so much support that we're doing most of it for them. That's okay. That's all right, because what we're still doing in our heads is adding support to a child because they need some supplements in that area of what's going on, but we don't replace their parent. And so I found, interestingly, in working with some of the youth parents, they really found the sort of concept of spiritual parenting really invasive, because we're essentially saying, you're failing as a parent, I'm spiritually parenting this person, or I'm mentoring this person, and it put us in an area of authority that parents were quite uncomfortable with. And so sort of banning any sense of yourself, saying, okay, you as a parent aren't doing it, so I will, is the thing that happens in our heads that begins to form this disconnection. Where we're saying, you as a parent have this authority in your kid's life, you as a parent have this place in your kid's life, and as long as you will let me, I love to be a part of helping your kid disciple next. And when we have that heart position, that means when we see the parent, we can talk about it and say, oh, I just love, seeing everything that's going on in your kid's life here. And it's so great that you even have allowed him to come to this. So I've had many parents who I've met, in Sainsbury's or, Tesco's, and you're like, hi, oh my goodness, is this your parent? And you're like, oh, it's so great to meet you. And I just want to say, I'm so grateful that you let him come to this club on Fridays, because, I don't know, it's been great to see him just connect with other people. And parents are like, yeah, it's been really good for him. Like, I just think, yeah, I know it's really hard on Friday nights to let them out. And I know it's probably complicated, with him coming back late, but I just think it's great. We can just meet over them feeling like they had a good parenting decision. Because I'm not in any way trying to replace them. And that is nowhere in my head that I need to replace you as spiritual parenting. I just get to be a small part of the supplementation of that.
We've got another question from
Yes,
Louise.
Louise.
Are there any resources, books, etc., that you can recommend about building multi-generational communities?
Oh, good question. So I have a little bit in the It Takes a Church to Raise a Parent book. I think it's like a subset of a chapter about how to build multi-generational communities within a gathered setting. But Messy Togetherness is really good on that front. It's focused, it's a Messy Church book, but it's more, Messy Church has these really core values, and they have a lot of experience in that, and it's called Messy Togetherness. And that's sort of looking at a multi-generational community and how they proactively build that, not necessarily through craft, but through relationships, and how they facilitate really good communication through that. So that would be my recommendation. Anybody else have recommendations on that? Because it's not just me who's wise. Blended. Oh yes, Blended. Ellie Bird's book Blended is a book about how we can blend together multi-generational communities into a group of people who experience God together, and it's just really good tools and tips on how to do that well, both in services and in community. So yes, definitely Blended as well. Any other questions?
No, only.
No,
Maybe the last one.
Let's start with. Oh, right. Okay, right. So, quite a few families will come to our Christmas stuff. How can we keep that going? Good question. So, I may be controversial in this, having not thought about specific answers. So I'm going to say it, and I may change my mind halfway through it. But I find that often we try to make the next step for families another event. And that may be right, but that also may not be their next step. So sometimes parents will come to Christmas because it's the thing you do at Christmas, and we go, they like events. Let's bring them to more events. And so when we do that, we then pour ourselves deeply into the January barbecue that's going to happen outside. And we're like, okay, but don't bring parents in. And sorry, I'm putting this page up because if I watch myself talk, then I just get distracted. And so we try to bring them to another event, and then they don't show up, and then we're super sad. You have to remember there are so many different routes into church. And so some of the things about helping parents come to the next thing is, yes, absolutely have a follow-up event, whether it's, barbecue or whether it's the Easter thing or whatever it is, having that. But I would also suggest you have primed other ways into community, not just service. And so whether it's having the January quiz night, that's for free, but it's also at the Curry House in Parents Hub. I would love to come to a Curry House quiz. Or whether it's an invitation to, I know one church that has like a visual arts, like a morning where everyone just brings their artwork and everyone just does art together, and just to expose them to the community. So it's not just saying your next step in this journey is this. You're saying you're entering into a community that has lots of different next steps, and these are all the different ways you can. And it's not just events, it's meeting up with somebody. It's coming to a social thing that's happening. It's also using your skills. I knew one family who came in because they were doing an event for single parents where they sort of bring everything together, like hair cutters and mechanics and practical things. And then once a term, they brought everybody together so that as a single parent, you could come and get your kid's hair cut, your car checked out, the bike serviced, and everything. It was great. And so I knew some fringe families who came in because they heard about it and they were like, well, I can fix bikes. And they started serving. That was their next step into church and faith and community. And I never would have thought that. I never would have been like, your next step is that. But by saying, come and be a part at whatever level you want to be a part, come and be a part. I know parents who jumped into a Parenting for Faith course. By laying out a display of next steps, we're enabling them to be themselves in their journey. That's what we're all about. That's laying out an IKEA type way of next steps. Your next step doesn't have to be the next step I think it is for you. We're saying there's so many different ways of being you in this place, and being you with your kids, and being you as you. And here's all the different ways you can step in. Another thing I knew one church who prepped like all of their families during Christmas and said, what we're asking all of your families to do is, could you please commit to, when you come to the Christmas services, if you see someone who you're unfamiliar with, invite them to your house for lunch. And I knew one church that just invited like everybody who was new over all the Christmas services and would invite them to lunch. And we saw this huge rise in community and a huge rise in parents' faith and fringe families becoming more into the heart of the family, of the church family, because one church was like, everyone who is coming, who's a church family member, is going to look out and seek community with people. And that's another way. Yes, that's my answer to that. Bless you.
Yes, we've got another one.
Yes.
Any ideas about how to do this in a toddler group?
Any ideas about how to do this in a toddler group? Yes. So you have within a toddler group, in some ways, two different groups. You have the gathered, because their bodies are there. But I know many toddler groups, you can feel like, it's time to do anything with the kids, and the kids come and the parents stay back. And so one of the things you can do is really push into the gathered section of it. Because often what we do in a tots group is we aim for the kids. So we gather them around and we tell them the stories with the spiritual life of the child as the main focus. So we give them the story of Noah, or the story of anything, and we make the songs child songs so that we're focusing on the spiritual life of the child. And I find that in a tots group, what you have is a consistent opportunity to enable a good side-by-side experience. So whether it's that you rotate having leaders, so if you want to tell the story of, I'm going to make this up, give me a story that we often tell kids. Moses.
Yeah, Moses.
Moses and his basket. Excellent. So you can tell the story of Moses and his basket, and you can tell that story, and any one of those people in that story has had some sort of emotion. And so as you're passing around the basket for all the children to touch, or as you are getting the song ready, you can have, yes, and did you know that God, we can talk about the mother in the story and how the mother was very afraid and wanted to trust God with the thing that was most precious to her. And then you can have someone come up and say, as we're passing around, one time I had a baby in my tummy. That baby was very sick and I didn't know what to do. I was very worried about the baby. And so when I had the baby in my tummy, I prayed and said, God, please save my baby. And whatever that story is, all of a sudden the story is very real and it's about fear and it's about parental fear, which all of the parents get. And it's an adult telling a real life story about God. That's your first point about giving them a clear glimpse. It could be a brief story, but it gives a little moment of this person, whether it's one of your team or another one of your Christian parents, giving a glimpse, just a tiny glimpse, a very short glimpse of into life with God. Not necessarily only for the kids, but you're saying for everybody in this room, that's a big story. And then you invite them to encounter. So while you're passing it around, or while you take a moment, I know some toddler groups who have like a song or like 30 seconds of a song that after any story, everybody lays down on the ground and just either chats to God or thinks about it or just rests going, whew, that was a really good story, and gives them a space to ask God to come or to chat to God about it, or they have everybody think about one thing they want to tell God about what they're afraid with, if you want to, or one thing you want to think about. And then you can whisper it into your hand. So it could be to God or it could be to yourself, however you feel your line of being Christian in a toddler group would be. But I would suggest you give that moment of encounter, or you give that moment where you play an adult worship song and just say, this is our peace time, because we all need a time of peace. And we believe God is peace. So we're going to play the song and everyone can lay down, or you can dance quietly. And parents, we really encourage you to. This is your moment to just relax and give them a moment. That's a song. And then you can give that MP3 to everybody so that they can take that home if you want. Because the next step is to say, parents, feel free to do this whenever you want. We're going to play this one song every week because this is our time where we can just lay down and be peaceful. I did this at one church where we had a tots group and we did that. And that was the song. That was our peace song. And parents would lay down and parents took that home with them. I was back in the days when we had CDs. And so I gave them CDs of this one peace song and I got permission and everything. And we sent this peace song home to everybody. And parents were like, we do that every night when we're getting crazy or before we eat. And they began to institute this moment where we just listen to the song and lay on the ground and ask God's peace, because that was a next step for something that they experience every time. It doesn't have to look at that. It will look like you, but just think through, how can you do that side to side? If parents are disconnected, which they can do, I have no problem going, hey, this is an all together time. And if the parents won't come to me, then I will send the parents back to their kids. All right, everybody, go find your parent and sit on their lap really well with your faces looking forward. And then I'll put myself really close to them because this is a together time. And then it also means my team can run around and support that. And so sometimes the team, rather than sitting and doing the modeling, are doing I can hold that baby, or no, you stay with your 4-year-old while I'll chase your 2-year-old. And we're facilitating it, being a together time. Mm-hmm.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
Team.
You like the answer.
Thanks.
Yeah, Mary was just saying a similar thing about adults chatting about.
Oh, yes. Well, it's a skill. Does anyone have any wisdom for Mary on that? Because it is something. I think I used to feel like if I raised the expectation or said, parents, this is for you too, they would feel like I was controlling them. And actually, it came out of relationship. So I only made that shift after I had made sure that those people felt loved and they had a team that felt loved and they knew that we were here and we're here together. It also helped when I stopped doing the really kiddie stories, because parents, I found, tend to be controlled if they have to do, the action songs and the silly stuff. They focus on, this is for the kids. And so I began to switch it up. I stopped telling Moses stories and I started telling like Zelophehad's daughter's story, which is about a woman who felt an injustice of the law, and she went before Moses and said, this isn't right, and God changed the law, and about how we all have an injustice in life. We feel that's not right. Well, that's an interesting story for an adult. And I began to pick curriculum based on what are interesting stories that I feel adults need to hear, because You can always make it sound friendly to a kid. But I began to build a theological framework for my parents. And the more I did that, the more they were interested, because I was hitting their spiritual needs. When we're only aimed at the kids, we are missing them, and then we're demanding of them to be engaged in something that's not for them. If I can shift it to something that is for them and their children, then I can ask them to engage and create a place for them to actually find it fascinating, and then argue with me about it. Excellent. Well, we've been doing 45 minutes, guys. I love you so much, and we pray for you so much, and I really look forward to this time with you every month. I always forget to do these things at the end, and so I'm going to hand over to Anna, who's not going to shove or throw or anything, and she's going to come over and just remind you of some key things. We don't want you to miss out on anything. Am I just going to turn it towards you?
Because we can do it.
Okay.
I'll come behind you.
Okay.
And then you
well, no, because then people can't see it. Look,
Okay.
into these. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
We have lots more things coming up, so don't switch off yet. We've got another webinar just before Christmas, Wednesday, 19th of December, when you are exhausted, you can't stand any more tinsel and turkey. Come and join us. We'll be here, same time, same place. And we're just going to tell stories about the fruit that you'll never know. So all those families that you've invested and you've engaged in over Christmas, and you think, did that even happen? We just want to encourage you with some really great testimonies. So join for that. You can wear a Christmas hat if you like. We probably will be.
Yes, we will.
The second thing I really want to tell you about is that we have listened to your feedback. You told us that our website was quite hard to find things on, and we agreed with you. So we are working on making that much simpler and easier to understand. And as part of that, we've based everything around 5 key tools. If you go on the drop-down menu on the left-hand side of the website, click on key tools, you'll see them. They are creating windows, framing, unwinding, chat and catch, and surfing the waves. Almost forgot the last one. On there, there's a little page. It's got a short video, just 1 minute. It's got some things to try. It's got some frequently asked questions. So if you're trying to explain parenting to faith to your church leader, to your parents, to your godparents, grandparents, whoever, they can get a feel for what it is. In 10 minutes, you can do the entire thing. And there are some easy next steps if they want to find out more. There's also a playlist on our Facebook page if you just want to watch all the videos in one go. And finally, loads of you have been listening to our podcast. Thank you. We are enjoying that so much. It's just 20 minutes. You stick it on. I use it sort of washing. You can do it wherever you want. We have 3 little sections on there. We answer your questions, send in your questions. We need them. And yeah, that's really a resource for you and for the parents that you work with. So please share it, subscribe on your podcast player, and rate and review it. That helps more people see it and encourages us to keep going. So thank you so much. If you are going to the Kids Leaders Summit at New Wine, Rachel will be there. And so she will see you there. You going to sign off?
Yes, I am. Okay, guys, bye. I'm going to pray for you. Let me pray for you. God, I love these people. I just thank you that you connect us through all different ways. And I thank you for all of the families that you are going to bring into our spheres, whether it's through tots groups, whether it's through baptism families, whether it's through this Christmas season. God, I pray for each one of us that we may be wise, that we may see people and love them well, and that through all of this connection, we may empower parents wherever they are on a faith journey to grow in confidence, to be able to talk to their kids about their faith and who you are to the extent that they know it. And that we may draw them in closer into community, that as they grow in their knowledge of you, they will know how to take their kids on the journey as well. So thank you, God, that you've placed us in the lives of families. And we look forward to seeing what you're going to do this Christmas. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, bye, guys. Have a good rest of your lunch. I'll see you next month. I don't know how to turn it off there. End live video. Bye. Nope, I just made it smaller. Oh, man. I do want to end the video.